Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome to the third season of the Competitive Speed Series. My name is Frostbreath, and I will once again be your commentator for the PC tier. One tier once again for the PC tier, and I believe from the top of my head, yes, we have 12 races coming up, and the first one takes place tonight. The first, actually, of the entire third season, in fact, of all the tiers. PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. We are the first to get going in China, Shanghai, here on the 2nd of February. 10 teams have made the cut after qualifying night 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there myself, but I've heard it was a good one. We have the following 10 teams who will be joining us tonight on the grid. Team NLR tonight with the drivers Zach Miles and Victor Wilder. I have to look a little bit, or Whittler actually. I have to look a little bit close on the screen to make sure I can read the names correctly. For the second team, we have another familiar name for the PC tier. It's Team ABS, and they'll be driving around with Exafox and Cryzix, or Cryzix, whichever is correct. The third team is a new one from the top of my head here in the PC tier, or at least for not seen in the last season. That is Team NVR, aka Novus Racing. They have, for their drivers tonight, Giovanni Lanzoni and Sixten Lindhard. Then there's Team PD, 2 letters, nice and easy does it. We have Julian and Pablo Alcoba for them driving around tonight. Then for Team 5, it's Team TTM. They've got 2 German drivers tonight. They've got Pascal Sankbel and Lucas Beisner driving for their cars. They're actually in the Red Bulls. Then Team 6 is SHZ, aka Team Shazoo Racing. We have Gabriel Decombe and Mackay Lutinsky driving for their cars. Then Team ATX with Roman Dishmay and Beaver, 2 familiar names from last season as well. Team CPI with Vuk Gaika and Noé Grosjean. We've seen both names before here in CSS. Then Team WR once again returning to the grid with Janesh Dovjan, a true WR veteran for this series. And of course, Tony Hitala joining in the second car. Then finally, last but certainly not least, the most consistent team of last season, Team GRS with Luke Mills and Snoken75. And that actually concludes tonight's grid. I can already see several of the replacements. I see that Vuk Gaika has been replaced by Defi in the McLaren cars. I'm getting asked if the stream is up. Yes, it is up. For quite a while, in fact. And I don't think there's any other driver replacements as far as I can see in the lobby. It's actually full already, so we should be on our way any second now. I see the first thing that was said in the chat is prediction for poll vote incoming. I do hope that vote is coming in very soon. I'm looking forward to hear from you guys who you think, or which team, or in fact which driver is going to be in pole position for the first race tonight. It's definitely going to be a good one. I'm absolutely sure of that one. Interestingly, last season's champions, Team OP, are not on the grid this season unless they've changed their name. I'm not completely up to date on those things happening behind the scenes and wherever else. But they're not here right now, at least not in this in their former name, that's for sure. So it's all to play for here in round 1. Of course, as you can see, the third round is actually going to be a manager vote, which means the managers of all teams participating here will be taking a vote to which track will be joining as the third race of this season. You might have heard the alarm bells going off there, so to say, with the timer counting down, which means we are almost ready to go. And I'm definitely looking forward to see what will happen tonight. 20 drivers in. All of them getting ready for the big moment. 18 minutes of qualifying coming up for the PC tier. Let's see who will take first blood, so to say, here in qualifying and which team will take the race win. Once again, of course, there are prizes to be awarded. It's a bit bigger this time, the prize pool is. For the team that comes home in first position at the end of this season, we'll have €100. Plus 1 full strategy package from our sponsor Sim Racing Center. Then second is €65 and third is €35, which means a total of €200 to be divided amongst the first 3 teams, along with the Drivers' Champion, who will get a 1 full setup package. So then, here we are live in China. And it's looking, I would say, good, but it's actually quite cloudy. We might even see some rain one way or another, which I wouldn't be surprised about. Last time I commentated in a league for the China track, we had a very interesting race where the rain started to fall on lap 4, but only on the final 2 laps did it become wet enough for intermediate tires. So, if that's the case again, we're definitely in for a very interesting race indeed. We see one of the cars leaving the garage right now. That is actually one of the NVR cars. It's not Giovanni Lanzoni. It is the other GRS car. I'm trying to find it on the list. It's over there. It's Sixten Lindhardt. First out in the very, very long turn 1. Always quite tricky to get that right. You go from 8th gear back to 3rd or even 2nd gear if you're up for it. And, well, right now all Sixten has to do is warm up the tires. Make the most of it, and we're actually checking here. No, those were reflections on the road. No rain droplets yet, no puddles either. But it's looking like it might rain at any moment. We see some different predictions here in the chat. Shazoo for pole. Hashtag NLR win. Let's find out who will do best. We saw NLR, of course, last season joined a bit later than the rest. But pretty well. And ended up very much near the top of the standings by the end of the season. Of course, plenty of new names as well. Of course, Shazoo didn't race for the PC tier last season. They are now. And from what I've heard and from what I know, they've got a lot of very quick drivers. They are driving the Aston Martin cars. Both of them are out right now. In fact, I believe Team GRS in its entirety is still waiting in the pit lane, and one of the Mercedes cars of Team ABS, that's Krizix, is still sticking around there as well. Now you're wondering, who do we have to watch? Well, there's certainly a few drivers we have to keep an eye on. This one is one of them, for example. Jinesh Dovjan did really well for the WR team last season. They were in the McLaren cars back then, and now they are driving in the handsome red Ferraris. Of course, if you follow the real live news, this car will be driven next year by one certain 7-time world champion. So then, the first one to cross the line is Sixten Lindhardt to start his hot lap. Let's see how he does into turn 1. Nice and easy does it. Already quite on the edge, I'd say already, even though it's a banker lap and there's still 15 minutes remaining to get it all right. It never hurts to get a good banker lap in, to get that confidence going. And that will definitely set the benchmark for the rest to follow. Of course, purple first sector, 23.666. Let's see how his teammate Giovanni Lanzoni will be doing at the end of the first sector, as he's being chased by a Haas, one of the ATX cars, currently on their way as well. Let's see, 23.7, almost a tenth slower than his teammate. I believe Beaver is up next, and he's 4 milliseconds quicker at the moment than Sixten Lindhardt. The rest, of course, following suit, but let's watch the man who is going to finish his hot lap first. 50.688 in the second sector, as he approaches a very long back straight. So long, incredibly. I believe it's one of the longest on the calendar yet. Of course, in real life, it's actually been quite a while since he's raced in China. But this is interesting. ATX have a double qualifying ban for joining late. They shouldn't be starting laps. Well, they're both doing it right now. I'm not entirely sure if they've received the message or not, or maybe they're thinking the qualifying ban will be for the next race on the calendar. Anyway, Sixten Lindhardt, the first across the line, the first of this season to set a qualifying time in a proper session, 1 minute 30.199. Let's quickly switch to the second man trying to do so. Giovanni Lanzoni hasn't invalidated either. Of course, coming out of the final corner is the most notorious place to get a penalty or an invalidation. 30.6, quite a lot slower than his teammate at the moment. Beaver coming in at 30.465. But that could be very bad news. What does it mean if they set laps? Asks Aspect in the chat. It means they'll be disqualified, meaning that right now Roman, Dishmay and Beaver will be disqualified no matter what. They will be racing, but it will be for absolutely nothing, I'm afraid. But they'll probably be a bit confused. Maybe they think, like I said, it's for the next race. Anyway, Lucas Beisner next across the line, 30.7, right now the slowest of the lot. I believe one of the Williams cars indeed is crossing the line. There we go. Julian, 28, setting a 30.096. Quite a fast lap indeed. We have the NLR cars currently occupying P3 and P4. We're watching the second TTM car crossing the line, a 30.6. P12 for the time being. The Shazoo cars, where are they exactly currently? There's one in 11th. Sorry, 12th. And one in 15th. So, I'm not sure who was predicting the Shazoo pole. But now, it looks like they are either sandbagging or on the back foot already. Watching Krizix at the moment, who is going on a hot lap while negotiating every single piece of traffic available to him. Which might be a bit tricky indeed. 3-6 for the ABS team. ABS, of course, started this season, well, relatively with a little bad luck. Had a great middle of the season last time round. And then ended on a bad note as well. Lots of things happened within the team this season, though. They are in the Mercedes cars and they are hoping to return to the top of the table because they were definitely fighting for the top of the championship in Season 2. 3-6 then, and Axefox, two names we haven't seen a lot last season, and nor on the ABS team either. He's getting a very nice tow from his teammate there. Axefox doing all he can to help him out. The man himself currently sitting in 9th position in between both Haas cars, who shouldn't be there, technically. Going through the hairpin then, and one more corner to go. It looks like the traffic hasn't really hampered him that much. Thankfully, nobody was entering the pit lane when he came round over there. And the lap time is actually going to be a 1:30.5. Well, that could be because of traffic. Or maybe it's just Krizix's pace right now on the China track. P13 it is. We're just waiting for Luke Mills to exit the pit lane because he still hasn't set the lap time. Either that or he hasn't validated and we've missed that one. But right now everybody is hurrying back in as we speak. And soon only Krizix will be driving around. The thing is though, one of the Haas cars is exiting again. That would be Beaver, who is out on track once more. Now, of course, I will be following him, even though he shouldn't be setting qualifying laps at the moment. Got a bit of a lag spike from his side over there. But they'll definitely not be very pleased when they receive the news that they are currently driving around illegally, so to say. Disqualification, that of course also means wherever they finish in the race will simply not count. And that's the worst possible start for Team ATX. And they will definitely not be very pleased. In fact, I see them typing in the chat right now. So I'd say this is the AI driving. Let's see what happens there. Nonetheless, we also see that both NVR cars are back out again. Sixton currently third fastest. He's also been pit by Noé Grosjean in the McLaren CPI car, who is gone second fastest at the moment, 6/100ths of a second quicker, than Sixton was. That means he's now in third position. So the fight for pole at the moment seems to be in between PD, CPI and NVR, and I shouldn't count out NLR or WR either, because their drivers are definitely in for a shot either, but I'd say NLR on average, look to be doing the best. There will definitely be some discussions post-race about what happened to Team ATX. I wonder what the final verdict will be for that one. But let's actually focus on the proper battle at hand. That is the fight for pole position. I can also see one of the NLR cars currently on their way. This is Victor Whitler, who is a bit further back. That means Zach Miles is much closer to the start-finish line. Let's follow him around for a little bit when he starts his hot lap. We can already see that Giovanni has started his lap. He's currently only 15th fastest. We also see that Luke Mills has finally exited his pit box and is now on his way to do the first hot lap of his season here. Snoken currently last of the lot and the only driver to be in the 1:31s. Of course, there could be an error one way or another. We see a lot of drivers on the back straight at the moment. Looks like Zach Miles is letting one of the Shizou cars get past. I believe that is indeed Kiko. I think Shizou can do better than this. And Kiko and Mikhail Lutinsky have a lot to prove right now. Kiko has started his hot lap right here. In the background we see Zach Miles coming around the final corner to start his lap as well. One of the Red Bulls right behind him, one of the TTM cars, that is Pascal Sankbeil, who is right now on his way too. Let's, as I said, follow Zach Miles as he weaves his way through the first few corners. As I said, very tricky to negotiate those properly. He's currently chasing down Kiko. Let's see actually what Kiko has done at the end of the first sector. Missed that one, unfortunately, causing us to miss Zach Miles' first sector as well. According to the game, at least, it is purple, so that's definitely promising. If you're watching WOR, you'll see him driving around in Tier 3 as well. There's some very slow cars ahead. A very slow Mercedes, actually. He's making way for Zach Miles. There they are. A Red Bull there as well. Another purple middle sector then. Almost 2/10 quicker than his previous attempt right now. That will easily be good enough for pole. And the first 1 minute 29 of tonight. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see where Kiko will be first and foremost. He's nearly there, and then we'll switch back to Zach Miles as soon as humanly possible. Through the hairpin he goes, Kiko. Let's see where he'll be finishing. He's very close to creases this time, but he needs a little bit more to get up to Tony Hitala in 11th place. There we go, Kiko across the line. It's a 30.1. That's a lot more like it, I'd say. And that means we'll have to watch Zach Miles. I'm trying to watch him, actually. Never mind that. There we go. He's already fastest overall with a 1 minute 30.0. He just missed out on that 1 minute 29 lap time. He probably really would have liked to have to actually set the bar really high for the rest of the drivers. But so far, it's still above 1 minute 30.000. Who is going to beat it? Let's see. We are right now following Defi, who has replaced Vuk Gaika in the McLaren car. And there we go, the first man to cross into the 1 minute 29 is the other NLR car of Victor Whittler. Once again, it looks like NLR brought two very strong drivers, and they are now occupying first and second place. Noah Grosjean, who was very close to provisional pole a few minutes ago, finds himself in fourth place, just ahead of Kiko right now. Pascal Sankbeil has improved massively as well, finds himself in P7 at the moment. We are watching Axefox right here, who's abandoned his lap completely. I'm not sure if that was an accident happening there or he's just moving out of the way. There's a Williams car passing by. That's the car of Pablo Alcoba, who has just ended his second sector and has already finished his hot lap. Currently finds himself in P12. And it looks like some teamwork there between TTM cars. Lucas Beister is getting a very nice tow indeed from Pascal. This will definitely help him gather some extra speed. There we go. Pascal moving out of the way and Lucas going through there in the hairpin. And let's see where the other TTM car will be at the end of his hot lap. We should watch Luke Mills as well, I'd say, because he's close to finishing his, I believe. And there we go, an improvement as well, up to P12, switching quickly to Luke Mills, who has invalidated his lap actually. And that means Team GRS right now is not looking that great. The most consistent team of Season 2 finds themselves in 19th and last. A lot of drivers have improved already on their second attempt. As it stands right now, Team NLR, there they are, proudly driving behind one another, actually going side by side here through the hairpin. Looks like their teamwork is top-notch at the moment. And they're just taking it nice and slow back in the pit box, showing everybody that they are the ones who have decided the pace in qualifying night. Beaver's back out. The ATX car is currently in 11th and 14th. NVR is starting to fall back a little bit. Giovanni Manzoni has been demoted to P18. Sixten Lindhart is only in P6. And he hasn't improved yet. So there's definitely some work on the cards for the AlphaTauri cars. Of course, soon to be known as, what was it again? Visa Cash App RB? Not even sure what you would call that car, to be honest. Would you call it the Visa car? A cash car? The RB? We'll find out. I I think they're just going to be called the RB and then the Red Bulls. I'm not sure. That it just sounds a little weird, to be honest. But we had weirder names before in the far past. I mean, we've had a Lola car. Couldn't get much worse than that, let's be honest. One of the GRS cars exiting the pit box once again. It's Luke Mills. Let's see what he can do. He still hasn't set a proper lap time. Invalidated his last attempt. He has to try again now. And I think this is his last proper chance as the time is starting to run out. I'm certain because of the yellow flags I can't see. There we go, 2.5 minutes I think I saw there. And the pit box is just completely like throwing out all of the cars that are still in there. Because, yeah, it's really close to 0. That timer is. So then, it's all to play for pole position. I think it's incredibly close at the top. There's about 0.2 of a second separating pole position from, well, actually P3. Never mind that. I thought it was a lot closer than that, but a quick bout of math shows that Victor Whittler is actually almost a tenth faster than Zach Miles at the moment. But you never really know. Some other driver might suddenly throw out a brilliant lap. As the ATX cars are going rebel. They're still going round. Who is going to be in pole position? And now that you know this information, let me know in the chat. It's going to be good. Let's figure it out. Just a few minutes to go. Is it going to be Victor or Zach, or is it going to be another team who is going to join the top of the table? Pascal is currently on his way, 17 milliseconds faster through the first sector. His teammate Lucas Beisner is a little bit ahead. And I think Lucas might be trying to give him a tow, but will that sacrifice his final hot lap attempt to get Pascal up there? It's very, very busy down the back straight. That might be a problem for the Red Bull here. There is Lucas ahead, and we have Tony. Never mind. I thought he got a fastest lap there. There was actually a penalty for illegal blocking, which will probably be corrected once the race starts. So that means a lobby restart for sure. Because, of course, those penalties don't really count if you're an outlap. Nonetheless, Pascal Sankweil getting helped out by his teammate, who's got 25 seconds remaining himself to get to the line, so he definitely not get a tow from his teammate unless his teammate decides to push a lot more. And we've got a massive pile up at the final corner. Is it going to hurt this car, the Red Bull? Oh, dearie me! He has to back out because everybody was in the way. And that is a tow and teamwork and a lap time potentially quick ruined for Pascal. Thankfully his teammate was able to make the cut, just barely I think. Let's have a little look at Julian, who's currently third, was going really quickly and could be a potential pole sitter. He could be the one to spoil NLR's party. His teammate is currently a bit further ahead, who's about to finish his hot lap. 84 milliseconds quicker Julian is. A bit of a twitchy moment there as he went through the corner. Onto the back straight he goes. Let's see what happens here now. This is Julian, and look at Pablo, his teammate. Absolutely beautiful performance by him. Occupies P3 right now. Team PD in third and fourth position. Through the hairpin he goes. He was up in the first sector. I missed the middle one, unfortunately. So we'll have to find out what happens as he crosses the final corner and then goes across the line. Where is Julian going to be? It's going to be another 1 minute 29. No, it isn't, and he hasn't beaten his teammate. He has improved his lap time, but he will still be starting from fourth at best as Kiko improves to P5. Let's see who else has finished their lap. Exa Fox has just finished his. Brilliant job by him. Jonas Dovjan is about to finish. Tony Hitala going 10th fastest right there. More drivers are crossing the line. 6th and improving to 3rd position. It is Zach Miles staying in 4th place right there. Can Jonas Dovjan go fastest? No, he's invalidated his lap. Would have been a 30.6. Not good enough either way. We're just watching Victor. No, he goes in. It's not an LR 1-2 as both Exafox and Sixten Lindhard have pushed themselves in between the Alfa Romeos. And Victor keeps his second attempt as the fastest lap of this session, which is quite impressive. Very, very impressive indeed. We have Exafox, there he is, on the front row, alongside Victor Widler, only 2/100ths of a second slower than pole position, at 29.926, the fastest one to go. NLR on pole, there's other driver in 4th place. Team PD looking very well as well as they are on the 3rd row with both cars. Team Shizhu with Kiko in 7th. And another car in P18. I don't think that's really what they wanted. Mikhail Lutinsky will be starting quite far back. Not ideal, I'd say. Oh, sorry, that's not Mikhail Lutinsky. Yeah, actually it is. I stand corrected. A lot of drivers actually got a penalty, so that means the lobby will definitely be restarted. Worse news for GRS still. They'll be starting from the back. And Snowken hasn't been able to improve from his 1 minute 31. That's gotta hurt. He's the only driver to be over a second slower than pole position. These are the results as they stand. Victor Widler from pole, Exafox in 2nd, Lindhard in 3rd, Miles in P4, Alcoba in P5, Julian in 6th, Kiko P7, Lanzoni P8, Grosjean in P9, Defi in 10. And here is the rest of the lineup for this race. Of course, ATX's participation in the race is still a little unsure. I also haven't received word of a restart. Do not leave the lobby. There we go. I can see it right there. Restart of the qualifying. They will be staying in this lobby and they'll restart from here. And that brings me onto an idea. Let's actually show you guys what happens if a lobby has to be restarted, but drivers will be starting the race nonetheless. I can see in the chat also that ATX can race. So at least their results will be in case things are different. So that's the good news for them. Here we go. This should normally be the start of the race, but it isn't. As I said, it's going to be restarted, and this is what it looks like when drivers retire or just decide to have a little bit of fun. No front wing there for one of the Shizou cars, and a lot of crashes in turn 1, obviously, not very surprising there. The virtual safety cars come out already. Many drivers in the wall at turn 1, and it's Krizix now leading the race, interestingly. That would have been a shocker. There we go, Noé Grosjean spinning out as well. Krizix moving on like nothing's happened. The safety car has joined in as well now. And surprisingly, many drivers are still alive. There we go. Krizix is getting bombarded by Beaver over there. And all but 2 drivers have now retired from this race. We're just waiting for them to retire as well. The quicker we can restart, the better. Right though. Interesting qualifying. NLR starting from pole position with Victor Widler. While we're waiting for the race to get underway, do let me know in the chat who you think will be on pole position. Will be winning the race, because we already know who's in pole position. What am I rambling on about? That's what you get for a long week of work. You just ramble on about things, one way or another. So yeah, let me know in the chat who you think is going to win this race after 28 laps. And things have been set properly. Yeah, you might be right about that one account that I'm logged into as well. So, actually, why not turn on a little bit of music? If you're wondering what was the intro music before the stream started, it was actually the menu music from the F1 2017 game, if you remember that one. Can you believe it's been 6 years already since we played that? Or at least since I've played that. Not sure how many other people in here have played it as well. If you're wondering, when did you start playing an actual Formula 1 game? That was back in 2000 and... I'd say 2002, 3-ish. Because that's when EA also made Formula 1 games, and they still had that brilliant F1 99 to 2002 game, where you could actually play 4 different seasons in one game, without having to pay extra. Good times indeed. Either way, I'll be back with you in a few minutes. In the meanwhile, enjoy the menu music of F1 2017. Right, we're back. Hope you enjoyed that little song in between. I've also got a very interesting weather update for you. There might be potential rain by the end of this race. It'll be starting off cloudy as you saw. It will be sunny during the middle part of the race, and then we might see some rain falling by the end of it. If it's going to be like the last time I was commentating here in China, we might actually not even see the wet tires at all. But that really depends on what the game decides is considered to be a wet finish to this race. 28 laps, though, are coming up for this race, and I'm definitely looking forward to see what will be happening. One thing that's for certain is that the ATX team will be allowed to race on the positions they have qualified, and that evidence will be looked at after this race to see whether what happened warrants a disqualification from this round or not. We'll find out, though, what will be happening by then. The FIA will have to make the stewards, I have to say, will make a decision on that one. We're just waiting for the race to get going officially. And see who'll be winning this race. Trying to find any predictions in the chat. I haven't seen any. NLR, of course, starting from pole position. Exafox in second place for Team ABS. Drivers are setting their setups correctly right now. They might adjust it slightly to make sure the rain isn't going to hamper their races by the end. You never really know. The game isn't fully precise, even if the predictions are on exact or precise or whatever it's named in the options. So the rain might fall earlier or later than predicted. We will find out. As you can see, it is overcast at the moment, as correctly predicted, and then the sun will break out, and then it will get overcast again, going into rain. Very interesting indeed. It might be a very hectic first race of the season, 1 out of 12. Let's see who will be on the top step after 28 laps. How many safety cars will we get? We'll know very soon. How many drivers will finish this race? Might be all of them. Might be a few less than that. Might be a lot less. It's a new group of drivers, so they all have to get used to one another, so to say. It's just a matter of surviving turn 1. Turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very tricky, but a lot of cars close together. 16 corners this track has, 2 DRS zones. Both of them have a separate detection zone, and the speed trap you will find at the end of the back straight, just before turn 14, which is the hairpin leading back into the, what I'd say is a stadium section here in Shanghai. Just waiting for the race to get underway. No formation lap once again, so the race will be going at literally any second right now. Just watching the pit boxes of TTM here, closest to us. There is WOR in the Ferraris, Tony Hitola and Jernej Dovjan. They'll be starting a bit further back than I expected them to be, but it looks like this season's grid is potentially even more competitive than it was last season, if that is even possible. It's definitely interesting. Troyer says, where did we qualify? Also, I'm not entirely sure which team you mean, nor do I know the results from the top of my head, to be fair. So you have to find out when the race starts. TTM, I believe Pascal did qualify in the top 10, or vice versa. I'm not very good at remembering the results. Looks like the countdown really hasn't started yet. It's 30 seconds, and it's already been almost 4 times 30 seconds since we've gotten back onto the track. So it looks like everybody's just waiting for one another to get going. No rain, question mark. Let's see what's set in chat. So basically rain won't come unless mass genocide occurs. That's a bit of a controversial statement to make in these troubling times. Either way, I'm from the Netherlands. You probably hear it by my accent. I'm trying to hide it as much as possible because I personally really hate the Dutch English accent. It's one of the most obvious accents in the world. Yes, you're right, Carson. Somebody ready up. You knew it, Zach. Thank you. I'm too obvious, I'm afraid. Not entirely sure why nothing is happening right now. 15 seconds. All right. It's always nice when there are some people in the chat who are in direct connection to the drivers, I suppose. French accent is way worse. I'm not sure. I actually quite like the French accent, but I like the German accent even more. Right, here we are then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights, and we are officially on our way for the first race this season. Looks like a good start for Victor Whittler, Exafox as well. Sixten, I believe, had a bit of a troubling start, but he's already alongside Victor to go into second place. Exafox has already taken the lead. Victor has been demoted to third position. It was Zach who got a little of a less than ideal start, but he's still hanging on to fourth place. Pablo trying to get past on the inside in turn 4. Can he do it? No, he can't. It looks like Kiko is hanging around in 6th place, splitting now both Williams' cars. And Sixten Lindhart has decided to go for the lead already. Up he goes and retakes the lead. He's been on provisional pole for some time. And he's back on the first position. Looks like everybody's gotten through safely. I haven't seen any carbon flying around. Exafox back in 2nd place. Victor is now getting hounded by his own teammate. Let's see what these two guys will be doing. We see a lot of position changes in the back of the field. Jonesh Dovjan fighting Lucas Beisner for a position, who's dropped another position, now down in 18th place. Giovanni Lanzoni going up to P7, challenging Kiko to the duel and winning out so far. So then, here's how it stands. No big incidents, and Sixten is just completely moving away from the rest of the field, nearly creating a second of a gap to the rest of the cars, and not surprisingly, because he's got the soft tires. Victor Whittler going past Exafox, and so does Zach Miles. They're both attacking one car. Good teamwork there from the NLR team, but Exafox is definitely not giving up that easily. He's on the inside because he was there in the hairpin, but now he has to try and go around the outside, which of course doesn't really work in the final corner. And here he is now in 4th position. He has to let both NLR cars through, but is he gonna give up? Of course he isn't, but he has to be careful because there's another NVR car on the inside. Giovanni Lanzoni on the other soft tires. Both NVR cars are on the softs actually. Has moved up into 4th position. Exafox has to try and hang on to P5 because he's got another 2 cars fighting for his position there. He started 2nd, dropped down to P5. Julian overtaking his teammate Pablo. Moves up 1 position right there, up into P6. A bit further back at the field, we see Lucas Beisner having gone in for a pit stop. I'm afraid there was some damage then to at least 1 car, as he is now back out onto the racetrack again. Team GRS still hanging on at the back of the field. Team W are a bit further back than you would expect them to be. They are on the medium tires right now. We're watching Tony Hitala trying to stay close to... this is actually not Tony Hitala. I like when my shift key doesn't work properly. There he is, trying to stay close to Beaver, and we have a yellow flag as Lucas is going very slowly indeed. I wonder how long those soft tires are going to last though, as we see right ahead of us Giovanni Lanzoni just all over the back of Zach Miles, although he's not as close as he probably would have liked. It's going to be a long way if he tries to go for a dive bomb into the hairpin. We see some cars fighting a bit further back. That's Noé Grosjean. It's Daffy actually over there. It's Noé Grosjean side by side with Pablo Alcoba. Can he get past though? That's the question. CPI cars versus the PD car right there. They have to stick behind. Pablo is doing some defensive work right there. Daffy now moving ahead. It's a big weave there from Daffy as he's now the next car to try and attack Pablo Alcoba for 7th position. Can he successfully do so? Yes, he can. Into turn 1 he goes. Nice and easy does it. DRS has been enabled as well. Now the proper attacks can start. We see the WR cars changing position. Once again, Tony Hitala ahead of Jonesh Dovjan. They're still hanging around the midfield. Kiko is now down to 10th position and on the verge of losing a point because Jonesh is nearly gonna go for a dive bomb on the Aston Martin, who is in the last points paying position. Lucas is back in. I think there's some serious issues which might not even be related to his car. Maybe there's some steering wheel issues, some throttle issues potentially as well, but he's back in once again. I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll find out by the end of this race in the chat, or maybe somebody is in the Twitch chat right now as a race engineer for the team who could let us know an update about Lucas's woes at the back of the field. First time you'll see the DRS flap open right here. Zach Miles will have to stay close to his teammate Victor, who is edging away slowly but surely. We see Julian getting very close to the back of Exafox. Can he go for an attack? No, he can't. Pablo Alcoba, though, much closer, but not going for a move either. I think we saw there. Yes, there he is, Janesh Dovjan going for a move, but he's gone a bit too deep. And that means Kiko can get back past, or can he? Because he made a little bit of a mistake there. Looks like, after all, Janesh got a better exit anyway. We see Beaver dropping down the field quickly as he goes into the pit lane already. Another driver in for a very early pit stop, probably some damage to the front wing then. No, he's retired from the session. He is out of this race already. A bad start to the season for ATX, since they're already under the big magnifying glass of the FIA, wondering what happened at the start of this session, as Pablo Alcoba is still fighting with Daffy for position. He moves back ahead. We see also Janesh Dovjan making another move. They were fighting for 14th place a few laps ago, and now Janesh is already up in the points. The medium tires, of course, working a bit better than the hards at the moment. First retirement of this entire season comes from Team ATX. Beaver is out of this race. Lucas is still going. And I see Beaver already in the chat trying to say something. I wonder what happened there. So, we're just settling down a little bit. Sixten has got a massive pace at the moment. I wonder how long that will last when the mediums, or sorry, the soft tires will start to drop off. Any close fights happening? Yes, it is. It's Tony Hitala now fighting Kiko. Kiko is not having a great day at the moment. He's just losing position after position, and now he's down in P12. And if you know where he started, in fact, he's actually started, in P7. He's lost 5 positions already. It's quite a lot, not something you want. Tony Hitala now up in P11. Janesh Dovjan moving through the field as well. He fights the other CPI car for 8th position right there. As you can see, he's very, very close. He can't make a move here. This is very tricky to overtake him. He gets very close there. Is that a good exit? Looks like it is. The Goodyear tires definitely working to his advantage, and he's definitely going to go for a move. He's announcing his presence here as they go into turn 6. And there he goes. Is it good enough to take P8 from Daffy? It definitely is. And that definitely was a pun that I totally intended. Pascal Sank-Bile fighting for P13 right there. Tony Hitala has dropped a few positions actually. I think he might have made a mistake. We see both NLR cars moving away from the second NVR car, who's now outside of that 1 second gap, meaning Team NLR can now work together to close the gap to Sixten, who's 2.7 seconds ahead in 5 laps. And it looks like the soft tires on Giovanni's car are not working as brilliantly as those on Sixten's car. In fact, he's getting overtaken again. He had a brilliant start thanks to those Red Wall tires. And now he's starting to drop down again. Quite early, I'd say. But then again, I know the China track quite well by now, and the tire wear it's causing on these tires here. With a lot of fast corners. Turn 1, of course. 1, 2, 3. Turns 12 and 13. Very hard on the tires indeed. Turn 7 and 8 as well. So yeah, it's tricky to keep those tires alive. You can already see Victor and Zach have already taken half a second of Sixten's lead in just half a lap. So the soft tires are definitely no longer working in their favor. It probably might have been a bit of a gamble. Of course, it's not for the driver's glory in this series. You should keep that one in mind. Thank you, Tez. I really appreciate that one, actually. Giovanni Lanzoni right here, P5. He's also nearly lost connection for the DRS to the cars ahead as well. And now there's 2 PD cars, Janesh Dovjan, and 2 CPI cars reporting for duty behind him. And when is that move going to come? They're just waiting for the DRS detection zone right here. DRS detection point, I should say. Giovanni won't have any. So, oh, dearie me! That's a terrible, terrible moment there for Giovanni. His soft tires weren't cooperating. Now his entire car decides to become cooperative as well. Please do forgive my struggles for words sometimes. That's that's what happens when English isn't your first language. And you've already had 5 days of work. I'm sure you can forgive me on that one. So then, lap 7 already. And it looks like the NLR cars are swapping positions here. And keep chasing down Sixten. Only this lap, they've only done 2/10 or 1/10 of a second. So it looks like Sixten has picked up the pace. And his teammate Giovanni now finds himself at the back of the grid, if you don't count Lucas. Because Lucas, not sure what's happening to him tonight. But he's definitely not there, and he's just probably hoping for a safety car. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. Janesh now finds himself in between both PD cars. He's made the most of the situation. Up to P6 he goes. He saw Giovanni spinning out. And if you actually look at where he started, we can actually have a look at that. 7 places up already. His teammate definitely not doing as great as a job as he does. I wish we actually saw what happened a few laps ago when he lost 2 or 3 positions at once. Tony Hitala currently P13, trying to close the gap to Pascal Sangbail for the TTM team. Pascal himself, of course, still stationary on the position he started on. And having trouble overtaking Krizix as we see both NLR cars swapping positions again. And look at this, Janesh Dovzhan going for another attack. The mediums are still working quite strongly, and he moves up into P5. The next target he can chase down is Exafox, who might be in trouble because he doesn't have DRS anymore. He's 1.7 seconds behind Victor, and he can't close the gap anymore because NLR is working together to get closer to Sixten. But interestingly, Sixten seems to be increasing this gap right now. Somehow, the man is able to keep those soft tires just as healthy as those hards. And that, I say, is commendable. Eight laps. That's what we have so far. 20 more to go after this one. No major incidents yet, apart from Giovanni's incident, I'd say. Well, it just happened on its own. There was no contact involved. It's just, I don't think the soft tires are working as well as Sixten's soft tires do. Because look at this, he's already fallen behind the rest of the pack. Behind both GRS cars. And we're still watching Janesh because I'm almost certain that this is the moment where he'll be making another move to move up into 4th position. And then we wonder, is he the man who can chase down the strong team that is NLR? Because points-wise, they are doing the best of them all. 35 points for a race win. Should remember that one. There's a lot more points to be handed out in a season of CSS. In fact, you get points all the way down to 15th place. Speaking of which, we see Roman Dishmay suddenly finds himself under attack from Mikhail Latinsky, who he had just overtaken. And he just gets re-overtaken, allowing Luke Mills and Snoken to close the gap a bit more. Is Roman going to give in though? Probably isn't. But I'd say he's staying behind him for the time being, trying to charge some extra ERS, hoping he goes into a mistake here in turns 1 and 2, which is easy to do. But McKay keeps it well within the white lines. Also interestingly, no penalties handed out just yet. And to be fair, the only major point where you can easily go off the track is coming out of the final corner, turn 16. We'll be coming there in a moment. And I'll show you exactly which part is the trickiest to stay within the white lines. GRS in the mud. I think that's safe to say. They are consistent in that they are staying together at the moment, but in terms of positions, last season's GRS team was doing slightly better. That could have different reasons, of course. I already said that the grid of this season appears to be a lot more competitive, which might mean they will be in trouble this season. And you're right, they're the only team out of the points. Once again, a swap between the NLR drivers. We can see Janesh Dovjan right there, trying to close the gap. And he somehow has done it. I think there was a bit of a moment between both NLR drivers. In fact, there's more moments going on here as Pablo Alcoba still tries to fend off Defi. I don't really think he likes seeing the McLaren in his rear view mirror, so the only solution is to let him pass, but I don't think he's gonna do that. There we are. Defi has to stay behind both CPI cars. It's an interesting duel here as well, between the PD cars and the CPIs. Fighting for P6 through P9. We have Kiko back in 10th position, hanging back a little bit. We see Snoken already in for a pit stop, going to the mediums, interestingly. Not sure why he's gone in that early on the hards. I'd say... Not sure of what the thoughts are behind this strategy. But personally, I think it's too early to switch from the hards to the mediums with 18 laps still to go for this one. Will those tires last this long? Well, to be fair, Sixten has managed to keep his soft tires alive for 9 laps and not even give a single millisecond to the cars behind. But to be honest, I don't think Victor and Zach are pushing hard. They're just cruising along. And any 10th they can close the gap with is a welcome one. But they have to be careful because Janesh is closing that gap right now. Even with them having DRS on one another. We see Noé Grosjean now getting ahead of Defi. He is... whoa! My goodness me! That was extraordinary late braking. And he nearly plowed himself into the back of the car of Pablo there. And we see Sixten going in for his pit stop. Not surprising there. Although, to be fair, I think he could have lasted a little bit longer, judging by the pace he had. He's gone in, and which tires is he going to switch to, I wonder? His teammate's gone in as well. He's gone to the mediums. Well, if he can't make the softs last that long, I'd say he can make the mediums last that long as well. And that gives me a bit more hope for Snoken as well. If he's able to do the same tricks as Sixten does, Snoken might be in for a bit of a better race than he already had. So far, DRS, not that brilliant yet. P3 in the standings last season, that's a really good question. I would think that's actually NLR or WR. I remember them fighting for second alongside another team. Can't remember from the top of my head, unfortunately. You probably can find it somewhere in the archives, I'd say. We are nearing the halfway point of this race. There's a lot of duels going on in between different teams. I think right now for Victor and Zach, the big trick is to create as much pace as possible. They know that Sixten has pitted. They do not know how much of a gap Sixten has, and this is interesting. Oh, for a moment, actually, I thought they were going into the pit box. That would have been something. To catch the undercut from Sixten. It's not working, of course. It's a bit too early for the hard tires to fall off yet. And they're still following one another, and they now see another red car appear in their rearview mirrors. It's Janesh Dovjan reporting to the NLR cars, taking Exafox with him. We see some groups starting to form. The biggest group being the PD group. Well, at least they're the lead cars of that group. And it goes all the way down to Tony Hitala in P12. So P5 through P12 all together. Of course, now the top 4 finds themselves within 1 second as well. Watching Sixten closing the gap. He's already closed his gap by 1 second to Luke Mills. That's a tiny group of 3 cars, by the way, with P13 through 15. Oh, dearie me, it's Krizix and Kiko there fighting for positions as well, in a place that you usually don't see any cars fighting whatsoever, because it's very risky to overtake there. Kiko and Krizix, though, decided to go for it. And Krizix doesn't really like it seems, because he's still very close to Kiko's gearbox and wants to get back past. I like all those dots on the minimap. All the colors together. And there we go. Krizix, as predicted, will try and retake the position. Will Kiko go on the inside? re-overtake the overtake? No, he doesn't. Stays behind for the time being. You might see another opportunity coming up here as we enter lap 13. Nearly at the halfway point, nearly halfway there. And now the question is, how much traffic will Sixten encounter before the rest is pitted? He'll probably be hoping that the 3 cars ahead will be pitting very soon, which I'm not sure about. They're all 3 of them are on the hards, McKay, Roman and Luke. And they seem to be in a fight of their own. I wonder if they will be fighting Sixten hard, knowing that that is actually the technical race leader. Plenty of battles have been going on so far, and it seems like the field is settling down just a little bit. It's NLR working together to keep Jernesh behind, trying to stay as close to Sixten as possible once they've done their pit stops as well. The upside to staying out a bit longer like this is that I will be having fresher tires by the end of the race. We also know that there's no safety cars today. We might not even see the rain that has been predicted, and I would personally really like to see that rain because it could shake up the order entirely, and that's what I like most. Zach Miles swapping positions once again with Victor Whittler. Perfect teamwork from Team NLR to keep themselves ahead. All they need to do is just not make mistakes when they pass one another, and it seems to be fine right here. And there we go. The first NLR car yields and goes into the pit box. It's Victor Whittler for the first NLR pit stop of the day and the season as well. And that means Zach has to push for all that he's worth. Normally I would show the telemetry, but I know that for the sake of strategies to other teams, I shouldn't show it as far as I'm aware. So no telemetry for you, viewers. Sixten Lindhart. Look at the gap he's created to Victor. He's right in between that group of cars. Doesn't seem he hasn't got too much trouble disposing of them though. There he is, Sixten Lindhart moving ahead. Let's do a quick bit of math. Oh, there, that's quite a big gap. That's about 10 seconds is what Sixten has to Victor. 10 seconds, that's a lot. He's been pushing absolutely madly right there. I wonder what Victor can do to close that gap. He's got half the race to do so, which is a lot. Especially considering Sixten's tires are 3 laps older. We might see Victor push a bit harder than he would like to. And Zach has probably already received that information that the gap is that big. He's also getting hounded by Janesh at the same time. I think Zach is going to come in. You can see his battery light flashing, which means he's pushed all the way. And Janesh is following straight away. Nearly Zach Miles goes into the pit wall there. He was pushing so hard that he nearly missed the corner in the pit lane itself. There's a lot of cars actually coming in, meaning that Julian now is the race leader for the time being, and Daffy and Kriesix following suit, allowing Sixten Lindhart to get back into 4th position, and he's now 6.3 seconds behind the Mercedes of Kriesix. He is definitely making a statement tonight. It looks like this man might be unstoppable, but it's still quite a long race to go. His gap to Victor is still sizable. It's still about 10 seconds. He has a commanding lead. There's no other way of saying it. And Victor himself has created a small gap to his teammate. Is he going to back off a little bit to allow his teammate to get into DRS range? Otherwise, Zach might be in trouble from Jernesh, who has in fact gone into the soft tires. Jernesh is going very aggressive indeed. Just like Sixten has. And you would say Giovanni has as well, but he switched from the softs to the hards. He's playing the safe game right now, as he has approached the back of Snoken. Purple middle sector there for Janesh, obviously. We see Daffy now finally able to beat the PD car, and Kriesix, wow, he also wanted to go for it, but Julian was having absolutely none of it. A lot of smoke coming from those tires, trying to get past. Let's see who's going in the pit box. It's actually Daffy after overtaking, who is gone for his one and only pit stop, unless there's a safety car, of course. And Sixten now moves up back in third position. And now, in a few moments, we'll see the proper gap between himself and Victor Whittler. Now that all the other cars are moving out of the way. And there is your gap. Sixten versus Victor. 9.8 seconds, and Jernash has already got the job done. Zach wasn't able to hold him off, so it couldn't get much worse for the NLR team. Not only do they have a massive gap to the technical race leader, they also have Jernash to deal with. And if they know anything, it is that those soft tires can stay alive if the one that's using them is an absolute boss at tire whispers. Sixten has been one. He's been keeping those tires alive really well. If Jernash can do the same, NLR might also have to wave goodbye to second place on this field. But I'm saying it again, on average, and points-wise, they're still doing the best. And maybe that is what they're going for. Just try to score as many points as possible. Lucas has thrown in the towel. Second retirement of this race. He's been driving at the back of the field. And he might have lost hope that a safety car will come. Now, it would be really sad if the safety car would come out right now. Let's see then. Krizix and Julian also going in for their pit stop. Whoa, Julian having to go a bit wider. Because he nearly plowed into the rear of Krizix's car. And Jernash Dovjan finds himself in fourth position right there. And the fastest lap of the race as well. Now the question is, how quick can he close the gap? And can NLR tow along? Because look at that, the gap has gone down to 8 seconds and is still shrinking. If NLR can keep up with Jernash, they might still be in for a shot at winning the race. But that is still a lot of laps away. The gap is still very sizable, a lot bigger than it was before the first round of pit stops. 7.3 seconds is still a lot to cover in 12 laps, 11 and a half. Let's look at the battle between PD and CPI. It's Pablo Alcoba who came out best. He's actually created quite the gap to the group behind. He's actually now pretty much alone. He sees that Noé Grosjean is right behind him, and Tony Hittala, one of the two drivers now on the hard tires, is gone up to 8th position. But for the time being, he'll be slower than all of those on the medium tires. So we'll have to use the DRS actually as much as possible. He still has it, but he's definitely under attack from Kiko right now. There he goes for an attack move on the Ferrari. Kiko moves ahead in 8th position, and another car gets past. It's actually Daffy who tries to get past 2 cars, and nearly they come together. Thankfully Kiko saw him coming, made a bit more room there. Otherwise there definitely would have been an accident over there. The first major one of this season actually. But so far I'd say the race has been exceptionally clean. I tip my hat to all of these drivers if I had one. Should probably wear my Williams cap next race. And I don't mean that because I'm a PD fan. No, I'm actually a real-life Williams fan. Roman Dishmay versus Luke Mills. A bit further back in the field for the last few points-paying positions. Roman Dishmay in 14th, Luke in 15th. He finds Mikhail Lutinsky behind, and his battery is run out. We saw the battery light flashing right there, and McKay knows it. Definitely Omar Defi is on fire. It was a bit kamikaze, let's be honest. But thankfully Kiko was paying attention. But he's still fallen behind Defi anyway. We also see Pascal on the verge of the top 10. He's very close to Tony Hittala. Victor and Zach are doing everything they can to stay with Jernash. Unfortunately, they are now outside of DRS range. And Jernash has closed the gap to 4.7 seconds. Julian versus Krizik in the back of the field, or sorry, in the midfield meanwhile, for 12th position. Shazoo seems to struggle with straight line speed. They might be, actually. Maybe they have put a bit more downforce on their cars, and they were probably hoping for the rain to come in a bit earlier. But right now, I'd say if they have picked setups for a rainy race, the rain has definitely come too late for them. Is Luke Mills going for a move? I saw it in the minimap. It's not happening yet. He's looking a bit more feisty. He's left Snowken far behind. We didn't. Alright, yeah, there you go. It's always nice when there's people in the chat who's got some inside information to keep the talks fueled, so to say. Right now, I'd say NLR are hoping for Janesh's pace to drop off, and also they're hoping that it doesn't. And for two reasons. They are hoping it will drop off so they can catch up, and they're probably hoping it won't drop off because so Janesh can catch up to Sixten, which is still happening. 3.5 seconds right now. It's not closing as quick anymore, and we can see Zach Miles' battery struggling. Victor's battery, at least on the surface, appears to be fine. And we've also got news on Pascal, who's moved ahead of Tony Hitala. A TTN driver moving ahead of a WR driver. Very well done indeed. Also, Krizik still fighting with Julian for 12th position. They're still very close together. And Krizik is back ahead of the PD driver there. We also see on the minimap Pablo and Noé Grosjean fighting for position very closely. It hasn't come to a proper attack yet. Is this Julian trying to move around the outside? That would have been something in turn 2. Doesn't happen though. And there we are. Zach and Victor find themselves a bit closer to Janesh again. And they are closing up. This is what I hoped for. At the same time, Janesh is still closing the gap to Sixten. Now, if the twosome can turn in a threesome of working together, Sixten might be in trouble. There is still 8 laps to go after this one to close the gap of 2.7 seconds. It's now back exactly to where it was before all the pit stops happened. It was more or less around 2.7 seconds. It seems Victor has left a little bit of a big gap to his teammate right here. Might be on purpose. Might also have been a bad exit. Oh, look at this. There's some big fights going on. The CPI drivers against Pablo Alcoba. And Pablo has been left in the dust. Of course, it's very difficult to fight against one car, let alone against 2 cars who are on the same page on every single term. This is not a championship for any individual drivers. It's a championship for teams. And that is why Defi and Noé Grosjean are doing everything in their power to keep Pablo and Kiko behind. It's a CPI versus PD versus Shazoo right here. And CPI seem to have the upper hand because they are the only team who have 2 cars fighting for those positions. Can they get another position? I'm not sure because the gap is 3.5 seconds. That's a lot. The only upside they have is that Exofox is alone. He's got no DRS to tow him along. So he's very lonely in P5. Let's go WR, says Ben as Fraser cheers on CPI. It's always nice to see a lot of fans for different teams in the chat cheering on, keeping them all on their toes, because that's what they're trying to do here. Zach and Victor still unsuccessful in catching Janesh, but they do see Sixten getting closer and closer. The gap between Janesh and Sixten less than 2 seconds right now. Krisik's going for a move. We also see Julian going for a move. Is he going to take 2? No, it's actually Krisik's going for another move, and it caught Pascal very off guard. But Krisik's broke a bit too late, gone in too deep. Pascal probably knew that. That's why he moved out of the way, I'd say. got back through, but it's still Kriesix who comes out best. But Pascal's got a better run. So he's going to come out on top of this battle then. Pascal's fourth around the outside. Can Julian play a role in this fight here? Pascal's going wide. Is Julian allowed to go on the inside? He somewhat is. But it's going to be tricky to overtake, and it stays the same for the time being. With Kriesix in 10th, Pascal 11th, Julian P12, and Tony still just waiting patiently in 13th position. HS Moore, let's go GRS. They definitely lead the cheers tonight, unfortunately, in 14th and 18th place. I saw somebody saying in the chat a bit earlier that they were not able to practice, which might explain the lack of pace. That combined with the fact that personally I find China a very tricky track to get right. If the downforce is too low, you'll spin at almost every corner. If there's too much downforce, you'll be very slow on the straights. So the trick is to find the perfect balance. And that is not easy on a track like this, because it's got everything. It's got fast straights, it's got tight corners, it's got fast corners. So the proper setup is tricky. Luke's not a fan of China, there you go. That's also another factor that plays in, of course. We see Julian once again moving ahead of Pascal. There he goes. We see Kiko in the meanwhile also attacking the other car of PD. As he moves ahead into 8th position, he can try and assault CPI cars right there. As the other Shizou car of Mikhail Lutinsky moves ahead of both Roman and Luke Mills in the back of the field. Actually, scratch that. He hasn't moved ahead of Luke. He only has moved ahead of Roman. But he should be fine on the next straight. We see Kriesix there. Oh, they're still fighting. The fight here is just so close between these two especially. It's Pablo Alcoba who's fallen down the field as well. He now finds himself just only ahead of his teammate. Look at these two. Romain Desmay has actually taken the both of them. Well done to him. Up in 14th position. Making a setup for China is a struggle. There you go. I'm glad to see that it's what I said is being confirmed here by the most experienced drivers. Because, you know, while I do sound experienced, I'm definitely nowhere near the pace of all of these guys. I'm not slow, but I'm not fast either. And the fight for the lead, in the meanwhile, has definitely gone on now. Sixton's pace has dropped. His tires are the oldest. But he does know that Jernesh's tires are more or less at the same grip levels, if not worse, than his tires are. As we see Defi and Noé Grosjean switch positions. More fights happening in the background. It's Kriesix versus Kiko this time, with Pablo waiting in the background. Kriesix stays ahead for now. This is good news, of course, for CPI. Noé Grosjean knows it. As long as they fight behind them, they will be safe for P6 and P7. And that would be another very strong team finish. Not sure if they are the second team in terms of points, because of course shouldn't count out Jernesh's points either. Yes, Sixton did pit early because of the softs, but I'm afraid he's starting to pay the price right now. The pace he had on the softs compared to those hard tire uses was brilliant, so if I was him, I would have stayed out a bit longer. Maybe 1 or 2 laps might have helped. Softs and heavy fuel loads don't go on too well, yeah, fair enough, but if you watched the start of the race, you saw the gap between himself and the cars behind stayed the same, either because they were holding back behind him, or because he was brilliant on those softs, but now he's definitely in trouble. And Jernesh is staying out of the slipstream. He doesn't want to get past just yet. He does use his DRS to stay close. And also to stay just far ahead enough of the guys behind to not get intermingled in the fight with them. Noé Grosjean moving back ahead of Defi. We also see a swap between the PD drivers, moving up Julian there into 10th position ahead of Pablo. As of course they do know that this is not for individual glory. Now we find Junesh all over the back of Sixton Lindhart. He's piling on the pressure, hoping Sixton will make a mistake, but so far Sixton Seems to be made of pure iron. That's how consistent he has been. But I wonder if he can hold off the charging Ferrari. Let's have a look. Janesh started in 13th position. His qualifying was far from ideal. If he can win this race from that position, he would be a very strong contender for driver of the day. However, if Sixten can hold him off, he would also be a contender for driver of the day. That would only be fair. Because he started in 3rd, finds himself in 1st. And Zach and Victor have intermingled themselves in the fight for the win as well. Team NLR, of course, finds themselves with 2 cars for the win of this race. So they have a much better opportunity than both Janesh and Sixten. Is the attack going to come now then? He's closing, he's closing, he's closing, he's closing. No, he held it off, he held it off. Zach and Victor probably saw that. Their batteries are still screaming for relief. Both lights are flashing. So while they are still able to work together, I'm afraid they won't have a lot of juice to fight with. A bit further back, still some very intense fights are going on. It's CPI trying to hold back a lot of different cars behind them. It's Krizix, both PD cars, Kiko, Pascal and Tony waiting in the background to see what happens here. Especially Pascal and Tony, I think, are just relaxing a little bit in the back as they are all fighting hard for position. Look how close they are. Yeah, you got a lot of ads. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about ads. Wish we could. That's just the way it is now, unfortunately. So yeah, apology about it. But I can't fix it, I'm afraid. Hashtag NLR win. Harley is putting on the gamble for the NLR victory. Like I said, the upside for them is that they have 2 cars fighting for it. So they've got double the chance that Jonas and Sixten have for winning this race. But there's not much time remaining. There's 2 laps after this one. And the rain has started to fall down. That might change things a little bit. And it looks like Zach is going for the move. Is he going to go 2 for 1 in the turn? There he goes in the inside. But it's Janesh Dovjan who's fighting back the hardest. Who managed to still go around the outside in the hairpin turn. And now the gloves are off for the win of this race. Janesh fights himself in the lead for more. But for how much longer? As he's now without DRS and old soft tires. Sixten in 3rd position, but he's gonna try and claw back on the inside. In turn 1 they come together, contact is made. That was of course inevitable with 4 cars fighting for the victory. Thankfully for Team NLR it wasn't their teammates colliding there, but now it's going hard against hard as Janesh has to yield for the time being. His tires are not cooperating and the track might become greasier, meaning even worse news for the man in the Ferrari who are trying to claim the race victory. Finds himself out of the podium, but there's still 1.5 lap to go to still try and do it. As long as he can keep it up on the track that is getting slipperier, there's still a shot for Team WR to claim the first race of the season for their own. Right now it's Sixten back in the lead, but he knows now that nobody behind him is going to hold back. And look at the cars are starting to struggle already. It's gonna get tough here. Janesh is pushing Victor, trying to force him to make a mistake. But look at Sixten and Zach Miles there. Sixten got a terrible exit and Zach Miles is already ahead even without DRS. Zach Miles takes the lead of the race, but Sixten's got more straight line speed. He's got much more straight line speed in fact, unless Zach has held back there to get a tow alongside the DRS he has because his battery is low and he knows it. But it's the battery light of Sixten Linhart flashing as well, and Janesh slides through the corner. Amazing! He literally did a drifting through the corner then, and that might have nearly cost him DRS there. His opportunistic move over here, trying to reclaim a podium place at the very least. But he still can open his rear wing as we head into the final lap of the race. Zach Miles tries to go around the outside of Sixten Linhart, showing he's willing to give it everything to claim the first race of the season. We have a yellow flag in the hairpin as Mikhail Lutinsky spins out. Everything is starting to unravel with the rain falling down. The track is getting quite slippery. You can see the puddles everywhere. And that is terrible news for Janesh, especially with his tires already being old and worn and slippery. Now the track is turned against him as well. Half a lap to go. The top 4 are all still in for a shot of the win. I'd say that Victor is going to try and hold them off, as Zach Miles is now the lead NLR car. Victor has got nothing to gain to fight his teammate. He's got a lot of gain, of course, to fight for second position, and he knows it. What will happen on the back straight right now? I didn't see a message, I believe, that DRS was being disabled. Softs are better in the wet, but they're 30 laps old. Interesting. 2 opposing statements. But we'll know right now who's going to come out best. Will there be tears in the hairpin? Or will it be cheers? DRS has been disabled. That's crucial. That is absolutely crucial. Meaning that Sixten, who was in DRS range moments ago, can no longer catch up to Sixten. Janesh can still try to gain the toe. Victor is nowhere to be seen anymore. Can Janesh go around the outside? Can he force him in a mistake? He pushes him a little bit. Of course, the track is slippery and that will happen inevitably. But it's Zach Miles who, without DRS, has hold on to the win and takes the victory for the first race this season in China. Sixten has to settle for second. Janesh comes home in P3. Victor in P4. Behind them it's Exofox in P5 and Chrisix in P6. ABS have done really well too. Kiko comes home in 7th. Pablo and Julian P8 and P9. And while we were watching the fight for the win of this race, CPI has tumbled down the order and suddenly finds himself in 10th and 13th. In fact, Noe has retired after the finish. We should remember that he finished 13th. Keep that one in mind when the results are being shown. Tony finishes in P12. Luke still finishes in 13th. Actually, that should be P14 as Noe has retired. And we're just waiting for the final few cars to finish the race. DRS has gotten points, albeit not that many. Just a reminder to all drivers that you shouldn't leave the lobby before the race is fully over, because that will just cause confusion. Right now it shows Noe as 18th in a moment, and he isn't. He finished 13th. Yes, definitely the top 15s where the points are being handed out. The driver of the day, Janesh Dovjan. Definitely not undeserved, because he did really well to hang on to that final podium place. Of course, he would have rather liked the win, I'd say. Didn't happen. Zach Miles was the man to beat, and he did it. Brilliant moves made him the winner of this race. The DRS being disabled might even have been the final nail in the coffin of Sixten's winning aspirations, which didn't happen. But a brilliant race nonetheless. Janesh from 13th to 3rd. Victor had pole position. He didn't have victory. There's so many names in this group that I can make terrible puns with. Exofox finished in P5. Chrisix in P6. Kiko in P7. Then Pablo Alcoba finished 8th. Julian P9. I'd say PD is a bit disappointed with these results because they started 5th and 6th. Defi still in P10. He finished 10th where he started. Pascal in P11, 1 position better. Tony Hitala, 1 position worse in P12. Luke in P13. He'll be, well, actually, he should be P14. Rowan in P15. Giovanni in 16th. McKay in P17. Snoken in 18th. And Noe, of course, in 13th position. With Lucas, Beisner, and Beaver the only 2 retirements of this race. Oh, thank you for saying that in the chat, by the way, Ace, for the interview thingy. Let's hope some drivers would be willing to join. In fact, we already have somebody waiting in the box. As soon as the screen here has gone, I'll be dragging our race winner. Actually, never mind, he's gone already. I saw Zach Miles there for a while. Let's hope he'll be rejoining us to give us an interview. There he is again. About what happened in this race, especially those final few laps. And his teamwork with his teammate. We still don't have an interview graphic, don't we? No, we don't. So we'll just have to use the intermission graphic. So if you're still here, Ace, an interview graphic would be appreciated. Anyway, let's drag in the first race winner of Season 3 here in Competitive Speed Series. Congratulations, Zach.
Thank
Well
you.
done indeed. That was a very hectic final few laps.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, take us through those ones first, because those were very interesting to watch.
Well, obviously, first of all, with a few laps left to go, it was just all-out pace, trying to keep up that soft runner and catch Sixton. So we were just banging in the fastest laps we could for a bit, and then obviously we got there, and we chilled and we recharged a little bit, and we collected ourselves. It started to rain, and which obviously shook things up a lot. And then yeah, I felt very quick given the conditions. I don't know why, but when it started raining, I felt like I had very good pace. So I went for it on Sixton before the last lap because I felt I'd be able to get a big enough of a gap. And yeah, I just went for it, and I was 1.5 seconds in front of the yeah, it was great.
Yeah, there were some different strategies throughout this race. We saw Sixton, for example, starting on the soft, switching to the mediums.
Yep.
Which strategy, according to you, was the quickest?
I think the medium soft, like the Ferrari did, was the quickest. I don't know why. The softs just seemed eternal. I thought they'd die out really quick. The engineers thought they'd die out really quick, but the guys running them just always had super good pace.
Yeah, at the start of the race, yeah, for example, we saw Sixton with the soft tires, so lasted 9 laps, and you were not able to close the gap. Was that because you were holding back, or because you were genuinely not able to close it? Because that's what I was curious about.
No, we were going all out to close it, and we thought he just had some crazy pace. But then, after the pit window, when we were on the same tire, we were catching like 2 seconds a lap. So the softs just must be crazy.
Yeah, was the gap at the start of the second stint a bit of a worry, because it was about 10 seconds?
Yeah, but after we saw the gap fall 2 and a bit seconds in one lap, we sort of we forecasted we were going to get there with a bit of spare time to recharge.
Yep, and of course, brilliant teamwork with your teammate as well, with Victor. Was quite nice to see. He finished 4th. Did you hear anything about that? Was he satisfied with the results?
Yeah, he was quite happy. It was great teamwork from the team with my engineer Zach and Victor just swapping every lap. And yeah, Victor was quite pleased, but he had some rubbing on the last lap he wasn't too happy about.
Yeah, the rain definitely played a part in some of the contact on the last laps, of course. The track getting quite slippery. But nonetheless, congratulations. You are the first man to claim a victory here in the 3rd season. So just a little bit of a look ahead to the rest of the season. What do you think? Are NLR genuine title contenders, or is that too early to say?
Too early to say, but I'd say after this race it looks very promising, especially with some of the other guys in our roster.
Right, looking forward to next week. Enjoy your victory and see you then.
All right, thank you very much. See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Bye.
Next man to join us is the man who finished in 2nd place. Let me see if I can drag him over. It's Sixten Lindhart. There you are. GG, I'd say the final few laps, I was talking to Zach as well, were very hectic indeed. What's your point of view on those final few laps? Let's start with that.
My tires were pretty dead, so I had no grip in the wet or slicks compared to guys with newer tires. So I was just trying to hold on.
Yeah, you and your teammate both started on the soft tires, then switched to the mediums. Looking back to it, was that the best strategy, or do you have second thoughts now?
I think it was the best. I just made mistakes, and Jörn had incredible tire.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. Generally, the race, you were having good pace on the soft tires. Is that something you expected? Did you expect them to drop off, or last them as long as you had them?
I hadn't done any race practice, to be honest, so I ING'd the shot.
Right. Your teammate, were you together with him? Because he spun out at some point. Did you hear anything about what happened?
I think he just made a mistake, but we were supposed to work together on the second stint, so we could keep the gap to guys behind.
Right. Well, all in all, are you satisfied with the result?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I could have done better in the last few laps, but it's okay.
Looking at the rest of the season, how are you looking at the team as a whole? Do you think you can fight for the title? Is it too early?
The pace is good in the team. I think we can win it.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next week.
Yep, cheers.
Right, last and certainly not least, the man who dared to take on the softs in the final stint. Janesh, well done. That was a hectic final few laps. I just talked to Sixten and Zach as well. That was quite something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Honestly, I missed that sort of fights. I've been away from the game for quite a bit, so my pace wasn't up there for quite some time. And the feeling of those fights like kind of disappeared. But now, that was just epic, honestly.
Yeah. You started 13th, and you only finished 3rd. What happened in qualifying?
My plan was like that, but my brain kind of turned off mid qualifying. I accidentally took balanced setup. Tires. Tires. So I had 3 softs, 1 medium, and then I didn't think about the restart because of the grid penalties, and I only did 2 runs, and my last run was a complete disaster because of traffic and shit. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. It's all right. Then the race, your strategy. Zach said your strategy was the best. Do you agree?
No, I think I could have boxed a bit later, like 2 laps, because I don't race with my engineer. No, any engineer. I'm just alone because I prefer it that way. And for some reason, I thought the people that boxed in front of me, I think the Alfa Romeos, that they went on soft for some reason. I don't know. So I followed the second Alfa into the pits, but then, that was a mistake.
Yeah, still though, you managed to hold out quite well. Was that expected, or did you expect the softs to drop off real quick?
I expected my tires to blow up, to be honest. But I don't know, RNG.
Last question,
Honestly.
the rain at the end of the race, was that a helpful factor or something that was holding you back?
It was not expected, to be honest. But I think the result would be similar without the rain. It was just a bit more risky with the 3 of us going side by side into turn 1.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think the result would be similar amongst the top 4.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting analysis there. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Your teammates, of course, you weren't in contact with him because you just said you were alone. But Team WOR, tied to contenders, or is it too early to say?
I mean, if we work really hard, because this team is actually really committed. That's why I've stayed with them for so long. And I think if we just keep on practicing, keep on pushing, making good setups, we can challenge for P1.
Right, sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you.
Cheers. Right, my dear viewers, that concludes the first broadcast of Season 3 for PC Tier here in China. It has been a fascinating race, a brilliant final few laps, interesting strategies, people agreeing and disagreeing on which strategy was best. Do let us know which strategy you think was the best. Let's have one last look at the calendar before we move on. Next week, we're going to go to an entirely different beast because we're headed to Saudi Arabia. 27 corners coming up, plenty of straights to overtake. The walls, of course, very close to the track, few runoff areas, so that is definitely a race to keep an eye on. After that is the manager vote race. That will remain a secret until it's announced. When that is, I do not know, but we'll know it when we know it. Thank you so much for joining once again. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. See you next week in Saudi Arabia. Until then, goodbye.